Good evening and welcome to the Glazov Gang. I'm not Jamie Glazov, I'm Josh Brewster filling in for Jamie. And as you know, the Glazov Gang is brought to you by the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Don't forget to pick up The Great Betrayal, Obama's Wars, and the War in Iraq by Daniel Greenfield with an introduction by David Horowitz. We're going to touch on some of these themes in this segment, in particular the Muslim Brotherhood swooping in across the Middle East. Before we get to that, I want to talk about Tennessee. I had Eric Allen Bell, my next guest, on the radio show a few weeks back, and he's been dealing with the issue in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, of this mega mosque and who's behind it. Tonight I'd like to talk to Eric about what's been going on with that situation. Eric, thank you so much for appearing on the show. Tell me the latest and the greatest from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, because this is an interesting drama that I think is going to get a lot bigger, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of you on our television sets.
The drama is going to get a lot bigger. In keeping with 1,400 years of Islamic conquest, after a land is invaded, you build victory mosques, like the one in Ground Zero, and now
the Temple Mount.
Right, okay, or the one that happens to be exactly located in the religious center of America in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. New mosque construction in America has almost doubled since 9/11. It's not a coincidence, that's Islamic tradition. Tennessee, and specifically the Islamic center of Murfreesboro, really is the front lines of the battle of America versus the Muslim Brotherhood. Here you have a 53,000 square foot mega mosque being built. First 12,000 have already gone up, 12,000 feet, with clear ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, to the North American Islamic Trust, the Muslim Student Association, the Muslim Americans Association, CARE, all unindicted co-conspirators in the Holy Land Foundation.
Let me stop you right there, because that's an important point. Often you'll hear on Front Page and on this show, you'll hear about these associations. Folks, the Muslim Brotherhood's been around since 1928, and all of these groups that you just mentioned, and also I could add Al-Qaeda, and of course Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood.
And they are
aligned
with Hamas.
And people say, well, who cares? If they're all crazy, what's the difference if it's the Muslim Brotherhood? Well, I think it makes all the difference in the world if the Muslim Brotherhood is behind anything.
Of course it does. Apparently some of our elected leaders are under the misconception that the Muslim Brotherhood, note the word Muslim, is largely a secular organization.
It's B'nai B'rith.
Yeah,
they think it's B'nai B'rith.
Absolute insanity. So recently what you've seen happening is the federal government under Eric Holder lobbying on behalf of Islam, specifically Thomas Perez of the DOJ, met with ISNA, which is a Muslim Brotherhood front, and there was a sort of secret, sudden hearing in a federal court to override a finding of a county court. The long and the short of it was that the Muslim Brotherhood mosque in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, really has as its legal arm the DOJ. They don't have to play by our rules. In fact, I'd summarize it this simply. They have to be allowed to violate our laws in order to not have their religious freedom violated.
Well,
I think what's happening.
I think one of the things that drives this, and Evan, I'd like you to jump in on this. I think one of the things that drives Murfreesboro is that Holder and Obama, they just keep moving along with this nebulous idea of moral relativism, and all religions have problems, and all religions have bad apples, so therefore there's good and bad everywhere, and who cares?
I think you got to take it just one step further than that.
I'm not buying it.
Is that if everything is equally good and equally bad, suddenly you have to explain how it is that America got so prosperous and why the Muslim world is in such crap. All right, so clearly the only possible answer is if there's nothing special about America, we must, our success is at the very least unjust. And given that we're the greatest success ever, we must be the greatest injustice ever. Conversely, the Muslim world is mired in violence and crap, and therefore, if they're not really bad, then something must make them like that. So social justice demands that they punish America and they reward Islam.
Yeah, I think he just nailed it. If I could add to that.
Yeah, please go ahead, Eric.
The largest buildup of military forces in the UK since World War II is happening right now in London because of the Olympics. Not because they're afraid that the Mormon Tabernacle Choir is going to suddenly break into song or that the Jehovah's Witnesses are going to hand out Watchtower magazines. It's because of Islam, only Islam. And I think that speaks volumes because they're not going to spend that much money unless it's a real threat.
Go ahead, Evan, quickly.
One fact, and I'm 99.999% sure of this fact. There are 39 wars on the planet today. 39 of them involve Muslims fighting on one side.
That's a good point.
If Muslims were not forgive me for this, if Muslims were not on the planet, there'd be 0 wars on the planet today.
Well, there's a serious problem with the larger culture, and I'm going to take what you're saying, and I want to touch on this. I'm going to talk to Mike, and then I want to get your comments. I believe, and everybody here is, well, conservative to some degree or another. If concern for radical Islam is the domain of conservatives, folks, we are all screwed. Okay, to put it bluntly, we're screwed. We have to be able to reach out to liberals, let them know, Mike, that it's okay to be concerned about the way they treat gays or the way they stone people.
And I'll give it to you, I swear, but let me just
come on.
We have to reach out to lowercase l liberals to make them understand that uppercase L liberals are not liberals. We're the liberals, and because we're
that's the majority.
We're the classical liberals.
What conservative means to a lot of us is we're conserving liberal values.
Right.
All right. They are not conserving liberal
values. They've co-opted a million terms.
Values.
They've co-opted many terms to conceal who they really are. Mike, what do you think about what I'm saying? Is if this is just the domain of conservatives, we're in trouble.
Well, look, we're in trouble at the governmental level because Eric made this point too at the DOJ, but the State Department historically has been very Arabist. It consistently comes down on the side of the Arab countries, not Israel, and that's because, as the State Department guys will tell you, there are X number of Arab Muslim countries, and there's one Israel. So a lot of them have done time in all those other countries. Naturally, they want to get along with their hosts, so they are more inclined to support the Arab cause. Now, you've got Deputy National Security Advisor John Brennan, who speaks Arabic, and who is a very potent voice inside the Obama administration on behalf of the Muslims.
You also have to understand the State Department's job is not morality. The State Department's job is peace. All right. So if you have if you're going to do something moral, like move the capital to the embassy to Jerusalem, all right, that's the moral right, just thing to do. But if you're a State Department person, you don't want to do that because your job isn't morality, it's peace.
Yeah, actually, on that note, let me jump over to you, Eric. Let's talk about this thing. I'm concerned that this becomes the domain of conservatives. And I like what you're putting out there to a lot of people, which is that, look, if you're such a liberal, why don't you care about stonings? Why don't you care about the drive to annihilate the Jews in Israel?
You cannot be a real liberal without being opposed to Islam. If you care about free speech, you have to be opposed to Islam. If you care about gay rights, you have to be against Islam. If you care about women's rights, human rights, critical thought, you have to oppose Islam. So I think for somebody to call themselves liberal,
plus if you like to see leg every once in a while, you got to oppose.
Well, on this note, let's talk about, look, we're sitting here in Los Angeles. There must be 500,000 Iranian people who have moved here, okay? Jews, Christians, Muslims, they remember what it was like under the Shah. They don't mind living in America with people of other faiths. How do we empower moderate Muslims to speak out if every time that somebody opens their mouth and quotes the Muslim Brotherhood, they're going to be called an Islamophobe? How do we empower moderate Muslims?
We just stay the course and we stay consistent until so many people are saying it that it's okay. I think it's a matter of
this man.
Whoever is the first man out of the foxhole, more people follow, and before you know it, it's okay. It's safe. When I went onto Fox News and said Muhammad is a child rapist, people said, "Aren't you afraid of being killed?" And I said, "I don't think I'm at the top of that list."
Yeah, but next time, don't say it during the commercial break.
All right, now I'm going to click over to something that comes along these lines, and it's from The Great Betrayal. Mike, I want to talk to you about this. We have a situation now. Syria could easily fall into the hands of the Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt's already the new Iran, and you've got Tunisia, etc., and then you have Libya, etc. Obama has these wars in these various locales. Nobody is the least bit critical of any of this in our media. The Muslim Brotherhood's being ushered in all over the Middle East, Mike.
Well, yeah, I take a longer view of this. I mean, I looked at the history of Islam from the time it comes out of Arabia in the 6th and 7th centuries, and it washes up to as far as Tours and to the gates of Vienna. It comes and it goes, and Islam goes through a whole series of changes in which it appears to be ascendant, and then when it's decisively defeated militarily, for example by Kitchener at the Battle of Omdurman, it recedes very rapidly. If we were to show a united front and say, here's the line, you're not going to cross it, both sides understand where that line is. It's when we allow the soft infiltration under the guise of political correctness.
But we have a big problem.
Exactly.
Go ahead. A big problem, which is Europe killed all their Jews. they converted all their Christians to secularism, and secularists don't care about, think of the John Lennon song, "Living for Today." They don't have
the strength now.
So they don't have the children, and because a socialist society needs people coming in, it's a pyramid scheme. So they've been importing Muslims who, by the way, are having children. And of course, I'm just repeating what Mark Stein. I think I'm saying it better than he ever could. But
I'm sure, of course. Yeah. Well, listen, Evan, you're touching on some very important things. Europe is in very big trouble, as we know, and I think that it is just a long slide down for Europe, and it's accelerating faster and faster. As far as our country is concerned, really, it is about a united front, folks, and we have to show strength, and we do have to empower people who are not conservative, who are not currently involved in worrying about this, who are just letting it pass by and think that all this religious stuff is just all relative morally. It's not. David Horowitz Freedom Center, folks. The Great Betrayal, Obama's Wars, and the War in Iraq. Don't forget The People versus the Democratic Party by Mike Walsh over here. And tomorrow night, in our next segment, we're going to start off with Evan Sayet, America's #1 conservative.
That's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. Thanks very much for watching. Good night.